Thank you for being here. There's a little delay of a few seconds, but nevertheless, I can see the live chat very quickly. So when you're here, please let me know in the live chat you're here. It's going to be an interactive live tonight. Well, if it's maybe it's morning for you or afternoon, wherever you are. Chuba, thank you for being here. Thank you, man. Glad you made it. This live's not going to be very long. Just want to keep it very brief because this topic I've discussed earlier. Kwa, thank you, man, for being here. Kwa, are you coming from the continent of Africa? Just want to be sure. All right. So the topic of this live stream is after breaking through the brick walls. Beware. Now, one question: how many of you are already familiar with the term brick walls when relating to the paranormal? Let me know. Amber, thanks for being here. Ah, I felt something like that. That's good. How many of you are familiar with brick walls? What they are? So I've spoken about it several times since 2018 on this channel. Just want to check how many of you are already informed to see how much I need to elaborate upon it. Mhm. All right. Good. What is a brick wall? Well, we know what a natural brick wall is. Well, brick walls are not natural because of things we made with concrete, all of that. But you're not saying in the physical, a brick wall is simply a wall that's built with brick rocks, with bricks. All right. So it's not a natural formation. It's something people have built. Now, why do you build a brick wall? It's why you want to mark a property, saying that okay, this is my farm, this is my backyard. Strangers not allowed. So a brick wall is a restriction. It's a man-made restriction. We understand that. Or when you build a house of brick, you're making brick walls to keep the heat inside of the building. So a brick wall, when you build one, it's a man-made restriction. We know that. Now, similar when it comes to the spiritual, there are paranormal restrictions that society puts on people. Okay, and when you grow up, we were all we all started as a spermatosis that fertilized an egg cell. Then we grew in our mother's womb from a fetus to a little baby, and as a baby we're born, and then after being born we were raised by the community, not just by our parents but by the community. And the community had expectations towards us, and those expectations also included restrictions. And anytime you would violate one of those restrictions, there will be consequences. We all went through this. And as children, we learn to recognize restrictions and not to go beyond them because we don't want to upset the adults around us. Because, well, even as a child, your intuition shows you that angering or upsetting those that you're dependent upon is not a good idea. So we all grew up with restrictions. Our parents did, our great grandparents, great grandparents, all of us were familiarized with restrictions. Okay? However, too often we forget that those restrictions are restrictions. We begin to perceive those restrictions as just the way reality is, while it's not. For example, if in a certain society, a certain community, it's always Chinese folks that end up owning the shops, that's not a natural thing. Because you have places where you have Chinese migrants and they don't own anything. So why is that in a specific community it's often the Chinese that owns the shops and the businesses? Now that's not a natural thing. When you go into history in that place, you'll see that in the colonial era, for example, in the Philippines, when the Spanish colonized the Philippines, you had Chinese migrants that became the doorway to the Chinese Empire for trade. And the Chinese migrants became important for the Chinese Empire also. So the Chinese migrants became economically relevant. And after the colonial era, this pattern remained. So that's why in some areas, when you have a Chinese population, it's often the Chinese people owning all the shops, the restaurants, and the businesses. So in that area, the Chinese migrants have a leverage over the public. This leverage is something that's continued over the generations. And people kind of expect that anytime someone owns a business, like a Chinese individual. What if a native now what if a native would decide, I want to own a shop? Well, I'm just with the first example. Reload the reload the YouTube page because the sound is doing it well. Okay. But anyway, so let's say now that you decide, okay, I want to own a shop or own a business. What is likely to happen in that community? For those who've been here longer, just tell me what's likely to happen in that community if a native decides, you know what, I want to be the one owning a business now. Let me know in the live chat. What do you think? So, in example, you have the Chinese migrant community. Since the colonial era, they've been the ones that own the businesses and the shops. It has to do with the Spanish Empire and the Chinese Empire needing the Chinese migrants. After independence from Spain and also from the United States, the Philippines remained with this societal pattern that's mainly Chinese have economic leverage over the public. And people got used to it. Now, what happens if a native Filipino decides, I want to be the one owning part of the economy now? Yes, I have two answers. Kawabi Drui's answer. Um, what does the rest think? I'll give you an half a minute to answer. Yes, Kawabi made it plain. A lot of resistance. Mark said they'll try to shut it down. There's a question. Well, they'll likely do that. M said they will ask, who are you to own a business here? Amber said there will likely be resistance by the community. All of those answers are true. Because in this case, the public is used to seeing Chinese folks having the economic power. And everyone learns to comply with the Chinese having economic power, even though it's not China. So if you come along, a native, just like most of the people, and you own a business, now the people cannot play the victim anymore. Because During the colonial era and also afterwards, the Chinese had economic leverage there in that place. So the public, the majority, played the victim, as if, oh, the Chinese own everything. Chinese are spoiling everything. Even though the Chinese migrant population is likely 5 or 10% of the population. So why would 90% mourn and complain about 10% having all the businesses? Why don't the 90% decide we're going to open our own businesses also? And we're going to be the economic dominant ones over here. Because it's our country. It's our living place. But look at this, because during the colonial era, the Chinese could be blamed when there was exploitation and poverty. This pattern remained. So the public is used to having the Chinese dominate and exploit them, so that all of them just play the victim. Nobody does anything about what's going on. The moment you, as a native Filipino, decide, I want to own my own business, instead of having the Chinese have to dominate us all the time. Now, the Chinese themselves may think, finally, some of the natives finally do something also. So the Chinese may celebrate it, but the public who always got along with just having the Chinese overpower them are going to think, who are you to think you're good enough to shake off this misery from you? We're all miserable here because Chinese are exploiting us. And you think you're much better than us by not accepting the misery? Who do you think you are? That is what's going to happen. The public will turn on that Filipino for violating the status quo. And that is something you need to understand here, saints. As a saint, you by default are violating the status quo. Straight up. As a saint, the very existence of you being born again and renewed in your mind is a violation of the status quo. Fallen mankind collides together in what we call society, and in society they agree to certain restrictions collectively, and then they enact these restrictions on each other, and especially on the youth, as if those restrictions are inevitable. And the only reason those restrictions remain inevitable is because they tell people so. When people question it, they punish them, they afflict them. So is this threat of violence, is this fear of being violated that causes the youth to comply and to internalize all the restrictions? That's the status quo. It comes from Latin status quo ante bellum. That is how the Romans called it. Anything that disturbs the status quo, anything that disturbs the status quo is showing that the restrictions are toxic. Okay, so if you are at an office, let's say you work at Microsoft, and everyone is very tired and upset over there. You enter in with a smile, people are going to think, who do you think you are to smile over here? Who gave you permission to be happy? Because you're happy, we're affected by your happiness. But hey, we are miserable here, and the reason we're miserable because we can't control our lives. We're stuck here, have to work here from 9 to 5. You come here being happy, how the heck can you be happy? Or maybe it's a place where everyone is uh, kind of happy, but happiness is not genuine. And you're not there with a bad mood, but you are trying to tell the people, listen, you guys are all happy, this and that, but there are things we need to concern about. Now people turn on you because you violate the status quo over there. The status quo is a collection, is a bunch of restrictions to prevent worldlings from spiraling into endless fights. Because worldlings, they cling so much onto control, or as I mentioned before, to own their personal heavens. So to prevent all that clinging from turning into endless fights, you have those collective restrictions they all cling onto. So that is why anytime you violate those restrictions, people feel threatened and they take action against you. That action can be people ridiculing you, calling you names, trying to um, cat talk you or condescending you as form of demotivating you to continue, or this can be extreme forms as imprisoning you, torturing you, cutting off your body parts, or poisoning you, or killing your wife and children, or husband and children. So the resistance can range from very minor things to very extreme things, but it's still resistance because you violate the status quo. So before I continue, how many of you ever faced retaliation for violating the status quo? Maybe you're not aware it was a status quo, but somewhere you realize people are upset because I kind of violated one of their expectations. How many of you went through this intense resistance? Let me know in the live chat. All right. But that's the thing, Chuba. You didn't know you were violating anything. And here's the thing: the status quo, as I mentioned before, is a bunch of restrictions people cling onto. But look at this: those restrictions often cannot be written down nor explained. For example, um, maybe okay, let me get for example, example give of the Philippines. Well, the thing about the Philippines is changing right now, but for a long time it was common for the Chinese population to be the ones running stuff. In that case, if a native Filipino would ask, why is it that it's only Chinese people I see owning businesses and being employers around here? If a Filipino boy would ask that question, what would the parents answer? The parents cannot answer it because why is it that the Chinese are a very tiny minority, but they're the ones running everything, even though it's not China? So when that little boy asks that question, because the little boy sees an inconsistency, the parents cannot answer it because it isn't something that should be that way. Or maybe you have a family where the children are always quiet around their father. And then you notice, why are the children so quiet around their father? It is because the man is mentally unstable, and when he feels upset, he escalates. So the children are afraid of being beaten. Now, is this okay for in a family for a parent to be so mentally out of check that children have to walk around afraid around them? No. But if you say something about it, people say mind your own business. Why? Because the moment you mention this, you're holding the community accountable. You're telling the community, hold on a minute. We as a community allow this to happen. How can we allow adults, grown people, to endanger children just because they want to face themselves? What type of community are we? When you mention some restriction and people cannot explain it, they become angry at you. Because the moment you ask the question, why, people have to answer. And if they can't answer it, it becomes very obvious that it's toxic. Okay? And the moment it's toxic, people now have to openly admit that they've been complying with stuff that don't add up. And as an adult, this can feel quite humiliating. That's why almost everywhere in the world, children are told to keep their mouth shut and only speak when they're spoken to. Why? Because if a child asks the proper questions and an adult cannot answer, the adult may escalate and kill the child. Such things happen from time to time. That adults, not just parents, just adults in general, kill children because children ask the proper questions and they feel humiliated by it. Well, listen, if a child asks a proper question and you as an adult cannot answer it, that's an eye opener for you as an adult that you failed somewhere or that the community failed you. In any case, you as an adult, you have options and look for solutions. But worldlings, as cowardly as they are, they prefer to kill or harm the children that ask the proper questions than to look into the mirror. Now, due to the influence of the gospel, have child protection services and all of that. And in many communities, thank God, when an adult makes a move to attack a child, people attack the adult, thinking, what are you doing? But it used to be like this, that children were supposed to be seen and not heard. But hold on a minute, children are the ones that need to be. Children are the ones continuing the community. So children should be heard because children need to communicate with the older people in order to learn, right? If a child never communicates with older people, how are they learning? So a lot of people grew up in toxic cultures where they were not communicated with. And then suddenly they're adults after a few years, and now they have to deal with a bunch of restrictions that they can't explain. So, anytime you operate outside of the blackmail of society, you are exposing that same blackmail of society. And the masses will dislike you at first. That's the beginning of the anger. And after a while, that dislike will turn into hatred, and that hatred will turn into homicidal rage. First, they will say, "Who's this? Who is this? Marie? Who's this Wendy? Man, Wendy talks too much. Man, she has a loose tongue. Someone needs to tell her to shut up a little bit." First, they dislike you. Then they say, "Ooh, that Wendy, I really can't stand her. Why is she always so happy? Why is she always thinking that people are waiting for her happiness?" And then people never ask for happiness, blah blah. People now are losing their minds, looking for a reason to justify their hatred of her. When she's around, people don't say hi, or people are very rough when they answer to her. They try to justify their bitterness, which she can't. And when things continue, and Wendy is not affected by it, now they feel humiliated because their violence against Wendy didn't work, and now they actually want to exterminate Wendy altogether. So the status quo is a bunch of restrictions society holds dear. Because once they let go of those restrictions, they need to deal with the actual issues around them, and they don't want that. So this is a recipe. If you want to be left alone, if you don't want to be violated by the world, allow them to blackmail you. Make it easy for them to blackmail you and to escalate against you when they're not happy. If you do that, you'll be the best individual alive. The moment you show any type of natural value for yourself, be prepared for retaliation. Because you're only allowed to be valuable if they allow you to. The moment you remind them that you're made by that you're created by a Heavenly Father and that you have natural value too, they get upset with you. Allow Make yourself so vulnerable that you can't defend yourself or you can't fight back when people blackmail you, and that's when the world loves you. The moment you have a leverage, you can talk back or you can shut people down. They get upset. They want to be able to tell you to shut up and to be quiet, and then they're happy. The moment you can counter, they're shut up, they get upset. The moment they can't easily tell you to shut up, they can become angry at you. The moment they can't blackmail you, they turn on you. That is society. Society only wants good victims. Victims who don't fight back nor talk back when they're violated. Those are the people they promote. Society never wants people that are practical and smart enough to expose the scam. That's why children who ask the proper questions are told you have a big mouth. What is having a big mouth to do with the question the child asks? It is because the adults don't want to face their own cowardice and they don't want to face their own lack that they persist in. So the only thing they have to escape being challenged is violence. And that's what they use on children and also on other adults who dare to question the restrictions. I've experienced this since a little child. The moment you ask proper questions, because you, even as a child, you can feel when something isn't right. You can feel in your intuition, even as a child, when something isn't right. And if you ask the questions about something that isn't right, not always, but often the adults are not happy with you. Even as an adult, if you ask a proper question or you point out something that doesn't add up, people get upset with you. Society wants good victims. What society calls good people are people who never fight back, people who never hold others accountable, and people who never take action against the systematic wrongs around them. If that's you, then you are beloved by the world. They will leave you at peace, and you'll have an easy existence in general. So if you want that easy existence that a lot of people are craving for, then be a good victim. And be so vulnerable that you have no leverage whatsoever to fight back, nor stand up and nor move away. Lose all your leverage that you can't fight back, nor do anything when they want to blackmail you. That's when the world loves you. So you are told never to force anyone else to do something, but they feel entitled to force you at all times. It's a one-way traffic. So the only way this narcissistic scam called society can continue on you is when you don't have the resources to fight back or to shut them down. As a child, you can't do anything anyway, so don't blame yourself if it happened to you as a child. In your early teens, you also don't have much. But the moment you are in your mid-teens and older, you begin to have options. Okay? You can look for a little job or whatever. And the moment you gain spiritual knowledge and you use spiritual knowledge as a leverage, now the scam becomes weaker over you. So that's why society demonizes all spiritual knowledge, saying, "Well, spiritual knowledge, oh, that's nonsense. That is those are fables, whatever." They demonize all types of spiritual knowledge because the moment you have spiritual knowledge, you will see through what they're doing, and you're able to become a force against what they're doing. And they don't want that. They don't want to be hindered and exploited. You just want to will what they will, get what they want, and you just take it without any resistance and without any complaints on your part. And if it happens that they need to behave themselves towards you, now they want awards for behaving themselves. Well, it's natural for them to, well, they should behave themselves anyway, naturally. But if they can't just exploit you and get away with it, and they have to behave themselves, now they want trophies and extra recognition for it. And if they don't get that, they escalate. That's why you have abusive parents. When they can't scream and beat the children, they get very upset when they don't get any special attention for behaving themselves. Well, they should be behave themselves all along. So that is why economic relevance is important. First, you need safety. Safety is a spiritual cover that hinders physical harm. So when you have this spiritual layer over you that hinders physical harm, you're safe. Then they can't just openly violate you directly. Then you need then after you're healed from the psychic wounds, your sexual health is restored. And from the moment sexual health is restored, you now can build economic relevancy. So that is why economic relevancy is so important. And look, for society to continue, you cannot have safety. You must be completely vulnerable without any protection for society to continue. So you even longing for safety is a violation of the status quo already. For example, let's say you live in the United States of America, in which most of the black Americans are working at white or Asian corporations. And let's say one day you have a group of black folks say we want to have our own black corporations. Now, if blacks begin to have their own corporations, and that means much of the money that's earned will be spent on black corporations, and the black American community becomes more autonomous. So when this happens, the white and Asian corporations will lose their leverage over black people. The systematic racism in America, in the United States of America, can only continue because much of the black population is still dependent on white and Asian corporations. So that's why all those restrictions can apply to black folks. But the moment black folks even want to have more autonomy, so they don't have to put up with systematic racism, that's already a violation. Now, already people are going to say, why do you guys want to separate? Why do you guys want to cause division? Why don't you just get along with everyone? Oh, yes, when the black Americans get along, they're easily killed in the streets by police officers, but nobody wants to talk about it. So, wanting safety itself is a violation of the status quo. Because the moment you long for safety, you are recognizing your natural value as a human being. And the moment you recognize your own natural value as a human being, you will also see the natural value of others. And the moment you operate in an empathetic way, that empathetic way you operate in will it it will expose the darkness of narcissism that the public's operating in, and that will leave them embarrassed and humiliated. So you long for safety itself is a violation. So, how many of you ever had it happening to you that when you even spoke about safety or admitted that you didn't feel safe, people throw a tantrum at you? Let me know in the live chat. So that was the first violation you made, recognizing your own worth, wanting safety. Now, the moment you have safety, they can still have some type of pressure over you indirectly from a distance. So if you continue from safety all the way to economic relevancy, now you are a complete threat to society. Yes, Steve, I know about it. We spoke about this, Steve, a while back. So that's why I understand the following. In your life, you will face collective resentment and collective violence anytime you want to be safe, at peace, and prosperous. Those three things, being safe, being at peace, and being prosperous, the moment you long for those three things, expect collective violence to afflict you. It is what it is in this world. And in some places, the collective violence will take form in actual militias coming to kidnap you and either kill you or disfigure you for life. like what happens in Latin America. Some places in Latin America, if you ask too many questions, you will have gang members or people from drug cartels coming to either dismember you, disfigure you for life, or they kill you. So, some of you grew up in more disciplined societies. Those disciplined societies are societies where the gospel had a big influence. For example, like in Sweden or in the Netherlands or maybe some place in the United States. Some of you grew up in more disciplined societies where the collective violence is kept in check. That's why you didn't experience so much physical or mental harm when you went against the status quo. That's why some of you are still alive. Some of you, if you would have grown up in places like Latin America or some parts of Asia, you would have been dead for a while already, or you would be missing an eye or missing a leg or missing some fingers or missing some um, toes, whatever, because the people would have disfigured you as vengeance or as revenge for questioning their restrictions. Look, if you grew up in a more disciplined society and you hear believers like me talking about retaliation, you would think, what is she talking about, retaliation? Because according to you, when people disagree, they just talk things through. Well, that's due to the influence of the gospel. But in true, pure paganism, you don't talk things through. In real paganism, you just follow the cycle. There's no discussion, no talking things through. Only those at the top who achieved quote unquote godhood are allowed to discuss things with one another. So if you grew up in a more disciplined society and you become a believer and suddenly you face all this violence, you think, whoa, what is this? You're very overwhelmed. But if you grew up in some places in Asia, like in China or in some parts of Indonesia or some parts of Myanmar or whatever, or in Latin America, if you grew up in certain places where direct physical escalation is common, you will not be surprised by the retaliation you face as a believer. Even in disciplined societies, from time to time, the retaliation escalates in full riots against one individual. And that's why you have the police in more disciplined uh, societies to hinder the escalation of collective violence. So just because you grew up in a more disciplined society, so if you grew up in a more disciplined society, don't think that how do I say this? For growing up in a more disciplined society, you may think that people won't go that far. People won't really do that. Listen, the only reason why in a more disciplined society they don't go that far as they would in some place in Asia is because people are more restrained by the political leaders of those societies. And that is why there are many believers today who are not strong in the power. Natural weaknesses and vulnerabilities we all have. So we ought to be powerful in the power. But a lot of believers are not powerful in the power because they rely on the goodness of society, namely that people will talk things through and come to non-violent solutions. That only applies in a disciplined society where the resettlement is kept in check. But even in disciplined society, it's still violence. But whether it's a disciplined society or not, follow mankind is follow mankind. Retaliation will be there. It will only be more covert or in a bit more in a more relaxed way. So that is why expect that there is going to be a war against you. I don't say a fight. A fight is an incident. A war is a mission. A fight is an incident when argument escalates. A war is a mission to shut something down. Expect a war against you from society anytime you break through brick walls. Expect it. You want to be safe, you want to be at, at peace, and you want to be prosperous, so without being economically oppressed all the time, you want those three things, expect a war against you. A lot of people, I'm talking about unbelievers, a lot of unbelievers recognize this and they just cave in to have an easy existence. And that's why you have those people out there who have an easy existence. It is as if life, it's as if the world is very fond of them. It is as if things just happen for them easily. Once in a while, there may be some tragedy. For example, a loved one passes away or whatever, but in general, things are going quite easily with them often. It is because they're completely locked. They are on a lockdown. They're locked down by society. Society has them on a lockdown. That's why things are so easy with them. So now that you know that a war, not a fight, too many believers expect a fight. A fight is just an incident, but it's a whole war. So you have series of fights here and there because it's a war. So once you realize it is a whole war against you, you realize, okay, in a war, they send out agents to do the dirty job. But those agents need to be paid and those agents need to be armed. So if I can exhaust the munition of enemy's camp, then I'm ahead of them. So if you know, for example, that people going to stand up against you, make sure you make multiple steps at the same time. So when they do rise up against you, you can just easily flee out of the situation. Don't just do stuff and now they rise up against you. You still need to go to your job every day and you're still in the same place. Make multiple steps at the same time so that when the retaliation occurs, you can easily just walk away. What you also should realize is that when they have a war against you, they got you on the radar. So they will try to trap you with honey traps. They'll try to trap you with false promises to make you lower your guard so that they can now put you on a lockdown. They may not, especially not in this society, may not come directly to take your life, but they will want to put you on a lockdown. So they may send a Jezebel woman on you, or they may send an handsome man on you if you're a woman, or they may send people that want to invest in your business or effort. They will send agents that will be generous towards you just to put you in a lockdown. Indeed. Just like Chuba said, a moving target is much harder to hit. Look, In the physicals like this, even if someone is a sniper, experienced in shooting, they need you to stand still for them to shoot you with with their tool. If you are walking around all the time, a sniper is difficulty hitting you. And if you move around in a chaotic way here and there, it's almost impossible to hit you with a bullet. So that's why if someone points a gun at you, keep on moving. Don't freeze. Think if I freeze, they won't shoot me. Keep on moving um, when they have the gun pointed at you. Don't wait till the gun is fully loaded and aimed at you. The moment you see they're reaching for their gun or for their rifle, begin to move already and move towards the bushes where it's very, very hard to get you. And the more they try, the more they're shooting and shooting, they get exhausted. And because they get exhausted, they forget that they have limited amount of bullets. They don't have unlimited bullets in their weapon. So the more they shoot at you, the more bullets they lose, and the poorer they become. And eventually, you've moved so much that they're both mentally and physically exhausted, and all the bullets are gone. This is how you have depleted the enemy's camp, and by doing that, now you can move on at ease. You get it? That's how we ought to exhaust the enemy's camp so that they faint. And once they realize that fighting you costs them, and they're the ones with the harm, and they're the ones with the damage, eventually they'll just stop fighting because they realize, oh, this is useless. We are actually destroying ourselves doing this. That happens when you exhaust them. Let's say someone sues you. It's a civil lawsuit, they sue you. And they think by suing you, you end up paying a fine or you end up going to prison for a few months and it will be over, done away with. But let's say now that the court case takes long and long and long, and the court case is extended. Eventually, it's going to drain them financially. It's also going to mentally exhaust them, have to go to the courthouse over and over again, and the issue keeps on lingering. And the more the issue lingers, the more bad effects it will have on them and their relationships and their daily lives. So eventually they'll think, you know what, let's drop all the charges. Or they decide, you know what, we're not going to sue this individual at all. Look, society will only make an open move on you when they feel secure enough or they see enough revenue in doing so. If you are someone, let's say you are a refugee from Syria and you can't even speak the language of the country, but you're joyful, it's very easy for them to shut you down. So they will move on you easily because it's true, likely that they'll get away with it because they can succeed. But if you are someone with multiple academic degrees, you speak multiple languages, and you're the type of man that knows the law and where you know the tricks of the world, they likely won't even make an open move against you. Behind the scenes, they will remain with resentment, hoping to escalate one day against you. But as long as they see, oh, we're probably not going to win this, they won't do it. Because if they come into the open against you and they lose, it's going to be a big loss of face. And this loss of face, this big reputation damage, is going to cost them to lose their minds and turn on anyone around them. So the key is not to fight the world when the world is fighting you, is to exhaust them. They insist in fighting you, so them fighting you costs them effort. They expect to make a little bit of effort and then to get rid of you. They don't want to deal with consequences. They just want to get rid of you so they can have their ease. But the more they fight you and the more it costs them, if they give up the fight, they need to repent. If they don't want to repent, then they have to keep on fighting you. So eventually they'll end up in a very unpleasant situation in which they cannot win and they don't want to retreat. So then they end up destroying themselves and other people because they don't want to admit defeat. So by exhausting them, you win. That's why Christ told us to endure until the end. Christ did not tell us to remain in bad situations. If there's a bad situation, you can walk out of it, walk out of it. Don't stay in it. But this world will war against you. So when they war against you, keep walking by faith, keep operating in peace, keep making steps forward. And by keep making steps forward, eventually they'll get exhausted and they'll faint. They will faint eventually. So maybe people have been have been upset with you for years, and now after years they realize they're still murmuring, complaining about you. And by keep murmuring, complaining about you, they realize that they now have faced difficulties in their own lives because of it. Now let me give another example of being exhausted. Let's look at this issue of Britain that happened several years ago because this thing called Brexit. Okay? Ollie Grove, thank you for being here. You can replay the live stream later back if you want. Listen, I'm going to talk about Brexit and how it backfired on the British public. There was a fraction in the UK that wanted to leave the European Union because they wanted to be sovereign again, this maritime power, which is not realistic today because the only economic relevancy Britain had as a nation is part of the EU, but people didn't want to hear this. So they campaigned trying to blame everything on the EU. And because the public didn't want to face the issues in their own country, they got along, at least half of the population got along with this Brexit idea. When it and the thing is, some even said it will be the easiest trade deal in human history when Britain wants to leave the EU. So then the EU said, okay, you had your vote to get out. Okay, come with your deal. Let's negotiate. They didn't have any deal. So they kept on blaming the EU, even though the EU was saying, you guys wanted to leave. We don't stop you from leaving. Just come with a deal and you can leave. Or you can leave without a deal, but that's going to be disastrous. It took 4 years for there to be a deal. And even then, the deal was not really a deal that was beneficial for the British interests. And in those 4 years, they were fighting, fighting, and fighting. And eventually, everyone outside of Britain got tired of this Brexit thing. And even in Britain, people realized, we've been bitching and fighting for years about this Brexit thing, but our education system needs help. We have the hospitals aren't working properly. So if all these issues we need to face in our country, but all thing we're fighting about is Brexit. But here's the thing: wasn't them that want to leave the EU? Was them that were blaming the EU for everything instead of taking responsibility for their own country? So now, well, they intended to fight the EU, and the EU did not fight them back. The EU just allowed them to fight and rage, and they ended up exhausting themselves. Then the pandemic hit, and well, now Brexit has been completed, the chapter has been closed, and now the side effects and economic disasters are for the UK, not for the EU. And still they want to fight now, but now they are in exhausted mode. So I use example of Britain with this old Brexit thing, leave the EU, just to show you that even the pagan administrators of the EU were wise enough to drain the strength of the Brexiteers that were fighting them, instead of going back and forth. And listen, Satan has a motto: if you can't defeat them, join them. Because by joining them, you'll be able to sabotage them from the inside. So there are people that will join you, not because they are agreeing with you, not because they can stand you, not because they want to be part of you, of what you're doing, but because they have no other choice. You are too powerful and too influential for them to fight you. Them fighting you will make them look bad, it will humiliate them, and they will lose everything. They will lose all credibility fighting you. So because of that, they will join you, other, but it is a resentful motive. They only join you because they have no choice. So when they join you, they hope that their resentment will weigh you down. So, Chuba, have you experienced this? Or did any one of you experience this before in your life? That's why I'm telling you, saints, always make multiple steps at the same time. Look, going step by step for pagans, that is an option because pagans have a paranormal charm. So they're still part of the world, but they are the more advanced worldlings. So they have better, in general, pagans have better motives. Pagans are more good-minded, but so pagans think by having this charm that they are ahead. But because they're still going in cycles, just like the world doesn't go that much against them. So for pagans, it's an option to go step by step. But even pagans make multiple steps at the same time just to be ahead of retaliation. So that's why I'm telling you, saints, be ahead. Be ahead of stuff. All right? The moment you are ahead of stuff, you are, I'll say, you will not even notice when retaliation hits you. And that's where we have to go. There is no other way. And listen to what I'm saying here. The reason why there's so many believers who never reach their full potential in the here and now is because they rely on the good manners of the society grew up in. As I mentioned before, even if society you grew up in or the society you live in now is more disciplined, it's still follow mankind, it's still retaliation. Mhm. So, for those that are here, later today, within just one, two, I believe 2 hours and a quarter, 2 hours and 50 minutes, I believe, I'll be online with Forever here doing doing a live, and he will do a live stream on his channel, and it will be an open panel. So you can join us on that panel with StreamYard and talk with us. It's going to be at 23:15 GMT. Forever here, are you in the live chat? Can you confirm the time when your live stream will start very soon? It's at 23:15 GMT, right? Or I may be wrong about the hour. Oh, it's in 1 hour. It's in 1 hour. I'm sorry. So within an hour from now, your live stream will begin. Is that correct? Oh, at 21:15 GMT. My bad. All right. No, no, don't postpone. Don't postpone it. 21:15 is all right. So that's why I want to do this live stream now. So that later, if you guys want, you go to Forever Here's channel and join us on the panel over there. There can only be 6 people at the panel at once because he doesn't have a paid membership for StreamYard. So Forever Here, can you share a link to the live that will happen soon here in this live chat? Because then I will end this live stream, and then later, if people want, within an hour, they can shown in other live stream, but we'll talk more about wealth and financial and economic relevancy. I want to do this live stream as a warming up for Forever Here's live stream. So Forever Here, please drop the link to that live of yours so that people can go to that page and wait till you open the panel. And by the way, I'm not sure if I told you guys this before, but I believe a few weeks ago, I know who it was. People tried to hack my Google account. So Google, for security reasons, logged me out everywhere, and I had to change my password also. And I figured out later also there was also a cyber attack on my Microsoft account. So if you have me on Skype or you have me on email, I may not have been able to answer you because I had to log in everywhere and go to security checks. Yes, they tried to both hack my Microsoft accounts as well as my Google account. What were they trying to do? Break in and erase my YouTube channel? I don't know what they tried to do, but anyway, it failed. So I have a lot of unanswered emails that I'm about to answer very soon, so be patient. So I'm going to wait till Forever Here, drop the link for you. And then later you guys can join that live stream if you want, because it's going to start within an hour. The reason I made this live stream now is because I want you to really realize that whether you grew up in a loose society or a disciplined society, it's still society. The status quo is the status quo. And retaliation is retaliation. Don't think you are in a disciplined area that there's no retaliation. Look, in a disciplined area, you may be far better off on the short term. So that's an advantage you can take advantage from. But don't think that just because you're better off and on the short term that it's something to stay there permanently. All right. Also, subscribe to Forever Here's YouTube channel, please. He also has a lot of videos he's uploading, a lot of good content. He's from the United Kingdom, so he also goes through a lot of stuff. If you are in a disciplined area, disciplined society right now, then praise the Lord. The Lord wants you there just to for you to recover and to power back, just for you to regain your strength in the faith and to continue. Oh, you can't put the link down here, Forever Here? Then okay, then all of you can go to Forever Here's channel, and it's the latest video. When it starts, it starts. Because YouTube indeed has some policy that you can't drop links suddenly in. Let's see if I can post it through StreamYard. Hold on a minute. Let me walk to my laptop. Again, I've been subjected to cyber attacks lately, so I may not be able to answer your emails lately, and I also got a lot of spam mail also. of, I don't know what those people want. Hold on. Be patient if you send me a message. Here it is. I managed to share the link of the live stream directly. It hasn't started yet, but go to that link that I've just shared, and there you can click on the bell icon and you'll be notified. Did everyone see the link? Okay. So what I'm going to do now, it's still, let me see, look, it's still 65 minutes before the live stream begins. I'm going to close this live stream now. You can resonate what I've just said, and forever here. Can you, in the description, can you, no, hold on a minute. Forever here will later share the StreamYard link to join the panel during the live chat when he's streaming from StreamYard. He will do that. Because when people are in the live chat in the live stream, Forever here can share the link to the StreamYard and you can join. Well, that's it for now. Just keep on agreeing with Christ, y'all, and see you next time.